map shows the route we're taking. About 1.14 miles. Straight.
Yeah, we usually offer a slower ride on autopilot or do a fast ride manual driving. So
which one are we doing?
most people usually pick the fast ride. It's up to you.
Sure. We're gonna see what LA traffic can really be.
So
I love manual. It's like what kind of mistake?
So you can hit the request departure button there. That's gonna basically start our trip. Signal the tunnel light's green.
Oh wow.
So you can watch on the map, it'll follow too.
Whoa.
Oh man.
Okay, that's cool.
Wow. Wow.
Hello and welcome back to A Boring Revolution, your number one news source for everything in regards to the Boring Company. I hope you like that new introduction. I'm going to start putting that in pretty much every video. It's just really good kind of emphasis on what the machines can actually do when we have no traffic on the road and just an open road or an open tunnel as they were. So, so basically after last week's video, which was quite well received really, I got a comment on YouTube from Warren. I read it and I thought, you know what? It's a good question and he's making some very good points there. And I thought to myself, well, what actually is going on with the Boring Company? Why are they not breaking these records and these kind of targets that they've set themselves? And I kind of just thought to myself, you know what? You don't get to your end destination in 1 second. There's a period of time, there's a period of learning, a period of development, a period of reflection, failure, progress. That kind of thing happens along, the path of every company. And the same is going on with the Boring Company, which is essentially a startup. We are still a startup. We've not really gone beyond 100 personnel yet. And I thought to myself, you know what? There's a very good reason why this is happening, and it's through the process of continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is a big part of Tesla, a big part of SpaceX, and I thought I'd just give you a quick overview of how that worked out for both those companies and what's going to happen to the Boring Company. So first of all, let's have a look at our comments, see who's in the feed today. Hey John, Andrew, Thaddeus, Walker, how you doing, mate? Nice to see you. Andrew, when do we get one in the UK? Hopefully very soon. So, let's see what I've put together. So, Elon Musk and Steve Davis, who's essentially like the CEO of the Boring Company, is working. They are working extremely hard to progress the technology in TBMs. Now, you basically start day one as a novice. You don't know anything about digging tunnels. You don't know anything about building TBMs. You don't know anything about operating a TBM. And it's that kind of 5-10 year process where you go from essentially a novice to the greatest expert in the entire world. And it's how you get, and that is essentially what happened at SpaceX. SpaceX is probably the best example of building essentially a huge machine or a rocket and taking it from the initial iteration that kept blowing up, that kept, failing at launch, to basically the most cost-effective rocket system in the entire world, and no one's even close. So the strategy of continuous improvement has worked well for Elon over the past 20 years. A good example of where this has worked very, very well for a company in the past is Toyota. They went from a medium-sized automotive brand in 1967. They were literally producing around 800,000 cars a year to the world's largest producer of cars in 2010, I believe around 10 million vehicles. A philosophy of continuous improvement, Kaizen, rapidly adapted cars, production lines and designs, and thus ensured Toyota thrived in a very competitive cutthroat industry. So essentially everyone from middle management to the people on the production lines, to the vehicle, people designing the vehicles, people designing the production lines, to the people who were fitting out the machines on the production lines. All those people were given the task of essentially, how can you make things work faster? How can you make things more cost effective? How can you make this more efficient? How can you make this less prone to maintenance? All these things. How can we get better, better, better? And because there's that constant emphasis all the time, whenever you sit in a meeting at Toyota, they're saying, we must get better at this, we must get better at that. This is a weak area. We need to work on this. We need to work on that. We must make that more efficient. We must make that move faster. They massively improved their production process. They went from quite like a mediocre car company to possibly the most reliable car company. Anyone who drives a vehicle or taxi for a living in this part of the world, certainly over the last 30 years, probably drives a Toyota, because they just don't go wrong. Until they get about 15 years old, you rarely have any major problems with them. And that came about, and they're also of great value for money, that came about via Kaizen, or continuous improvement. Now, Elon Musk does essentially the same thing. He just doesn't call it Kaizen. He kind of does his own thing where he's trying to outshine everyone else via doing things in a much more better, efficient, cost-effective way. So Tesla beat the competition when they formed. They were just a small car company. Now they are the leading electric car company. Better batteries. Not only the contents of the batteries, but also the thermal management of the batteries. The thermal management is absolutely critical to a battery's performance. If you think about the Nissan Leaf, the first couple of years of production, they found out that these batteries were a bag of shite, basically, or a bag of crap, and you just didn't want, it was a huge flaw. Whereas Tesla has continually improved its thermal management in its batteries. It's produced more efficient electric motors. It's always adapting its electric motors. It's always doing software updates to make those electric motors more efficient, to increase the top end performance of those electric motors. Vehicle safety. They are continually modifying their vehicles to make them safer than all the vehicles on the road at present. They regularly exceed the performance targets of all the other automotive companies. They also make their vehicles safer for pedestrians and cyclists. In terms of vehicle charging infrastructure, there was none. And it was Tesla who came out and sort of made this supercharger system. And then they continue to grow the supercharger system and make it better and increase the amount of kilowatts that is coming out of that supercharger. And again, continuous improvement. How can we make our superchargers better? How can we build more superchargers? How can we make the cost of a supercharger unit cheaper than the one that we built previously the year before? Manufacturing efficiency. Now, this has only really come about over the last 18 months, but since the Model 3 began production, there's been an absolutely insane focus on manufacturing efficiency, especially at the Gigafactory in Nevada and especially at Fremont. And that efficiency is now coming through, and you're starting to see that in the bottom line of Tesla. SpaceX is probably an even better example of how a company just came into a very monopolistic market, the rocket industry, and absolutely decimated the competition. So they focused on reusability and reliability. Initially, that didn't go too well, trust me, but they are absolutely now the most reliable and by far the most reusable rocket system ever developed. People said they couldn't do it, but they focused on that, focused on making themselves better than everyone else. Continuous improvement. So the rockets are even more reusable than they were in 2017. So continuous improvement again. They build their own engines, they build their own parts, they have their own production facility. Quite a lot of the other operators buy parts from various other parties. That is the way to go. It's just vertical integration is just by far the most efficient way to produce anything, really. Certainly if you're doing it in large numbers. They use innovative materials. Now, they use carbon fiber, but again, they were using carbon fiber and they were producing, the biggest carbon fiber structures, but then they were willing to totally change that and go to stainless steel because they're open-minded, they're willing to change, they're willing to look for that continuous improvement. Constant evolution and modification of the rockets. They are never happy with the rockets, and the same goes with Tesla. Tesla vehicles, there's no year. There's not like a 2019 Model S. They are constantly improving the vehicles every quarter. There's minute changes to everything. Same goes for the Model 3, for the Model X, probably for the Roadster, probably for the Cybertruck. And what I'm trying to like point you all towards here is this exact same process, which has been happening at SpaceX for the last like 17 years and has been happening at Tesla for the last 16 years. This is all going to occur, if not more, if not faster, at the Boeing company, because they get the TBM, they adapt it, they test it, not that great. They adapt it, they test it again, not so bad. Then they make changes. They make massive changes to that machine to constantly increase its production capacity. Because essentially, what a TBM is a mobile production line. It's just that we're not in a factory, we're underground. We've got to take the muck out, we've got to install our segments, and we've got to dig the rock at the face. And those are the three core kind of competencies of a TBM. How do we do that? How do we do that more effectively? Well, the TBMs will be modified and retrofitted with new parts so as to ramp up performance. So it's all about how many meters can you bore per day. Can you get it to 25 meters, 30 meters, 35 meters? You know, it might not be that greater an increment of increase. It might only be, you go from 28 meters to 29 meters to 29.3 meters. And it's those little incremental increases, that the adaptation of those systems, that then takes you up to 80, 90, 100 meters per day, if the ground allows for it. So I personally anticipate very frequent modifications to the machine. They probably are modifying the machine at Las Vegas as we speak to further push out further performance. But in terms of Linestorm, we'll have Linestorm Rev 1, Revision 1, Revision 2, Revision 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They'll be producing new machines all the time. They'll not necessarily be scrapping the machines, but they'll be heavily modifying them. A focus on full automation of all aspects of tunnel boring. Now, you're probably always going to have one guy driving the machine, but in terms of artificial intelligence and machine learning, the machine could assist the person. There certainly could be a machine that is assembling the segments autonomously. You wouldn't even need anyone doing that. It would just kind of do it. In terms of like lining the machine up, ensuring the machine is running perfectly straight and on the correct path, that could be fully automated. There's so many parts, and muck removal. One of the most critical aspects of a TBM is taking that muck or the rocks that you've excavated from the face, taking them out of the tunnel, and then bringing your muck train back in and bringing muck out again. And if you have, maybe a few dozen of these muck trucks, they could be autonomously driving in and out of the tunnel at all times, constantly removing tons and tons of this muck at very, very regular intervals. So the end goal, really, for somewhere like Las Vegas would be around the 100 to 150 meters per day. I think with the ground conditions in Las Vegas, I think that is a good target to aim for. I suspect that if they did achieve that, they would still continue to push for more improvements, for further adaptations of the machine, maybe to get that beyond that. But if they could get somewhere close to that, that would be absolutely astounding, because we're talking, 8, 9, 10 miles of progress in a given year via one machine. And if one machine can do that, imagine if you had 3 machines, 4 machines, 5 machines. So a lot to talk about there. I hope you guys agree with what I'm saying. I think there's going to be a lot of continuous improvement and an emphasis on that at the Boring Company. Let's have a look what you guys are saying. I notice a few things popping up. Johnny B, how are you doing, mate? Wow, we've got some comments today. Let's start off. What about autonomous tool replacement? You can replace the tool in seconds. You can dig like crazy without fearing any damage. In terms of cutter discs and cutter blades, it's not something I know very much about. Obviously, know that they need replacing at fairly regular intervals. You wonder if there could be some material science adapted for that. Maybe there's something that we could use that doesn't need replacing as often. Again, you need to be digging tunnels to learn that kind of thing. So in terms of the actual machines, they will essentially be run by software and algorithms, and it will be continually evolved, just like the software in the Tesla or the software in the Falcon Heavy is continually adapted. Hello, Julie. Hey, Phil. Hey, Mr. Watermelon. How you doing? One of our regulars on our Discord. Elon is big on inventiveness and the culture that's reward. Yeah, I think that he really kind of drums into people that he works with that he wants them to think like engineers rather than just follow orders. He wants them to kind of like look at something and say, well, I think I can do better than that, or what about if we did this, what about if we did that? And if they have 100 ideas and 97 of them are rubbish, but 3 of them are really good ideas, then those 3 good ideas help further progress the company, further progress that continuous improvement. At the rate that Elon can innovate and rapidly improve, they will have this mastered in a few years. Yes, agree. I think around sort of 3 to 6 years, that kind of timeline. Add the billions that Starlink will bring in, and we'll see tunnels everywhere. I agree. Hopefully they'll build some kind of factory to manufacture the TBMs. If they could build a TBM from scratch in under 2 months, then they could get these factories, throwing out these TBMs and then constantly changing the design as they go along. And the TBM can be used for 10 to 15 years, and then the parts could be recycled and used in other TBMs. So again, there's definitely options here and further incentive for progress. And importantly, he doesn't worry about the sunk costs fallacy. If you spend a lot of money on something and it doesn't work, he doesn't keep it around, ditches it. And yes, exactly. And that was with the carbon fibre at SpaceX. He looked at that and he thought, you know what? Let's go to stainless steel. We've just got to choose what the best option, what's going to do the job for us rather than what's we've been working on in the last 5 years. Continuous improvement is what software industry is fine as a whole for a long time, and he started in that field. Yes, very, very true. If you've ever used some of the apps, from like revision 1, you kind of like realize they're just full of bugs, and then by the time that they got to like revision 6, they're much more. I mean, like look at iOS 7 and 8 was terrible. So much, it crashed all the time. It was so slow, and iOS 13 they've gone up now. 13.2.2. That's much better, and I've never have any problems with it near enough. Other than it freezes the odd time, but other than that, it works perfectly for me. Our company uses Toyota as a model. Hi, Johnny. To transform our manufacturing processes way back when. Yeah, a lot of companies look. Certainly when I was in school, Toyota was that kind of like buzzword. Was look at what Toyota are doing. Why are they doing that? They've got the right idea. We should copy them, and then they did. And they had that way back in 1967. That's why they were so successful. It's just a shame that they won't build more electric cars. What he does differently is going to physics first principles and having as his goal most the rate of improvement. Yes. It's something that was born in Silicon Valley, break things and move quickly. Absolutely. Has its disadvantages, but the boy has it changing the world for better. Yes. Moat. Yeah. I mean, he says the supercharger network isn't a moat, but it clearly is. Having a network of tunnels under LA and offering their use to Teslas, and only Teslas, would be a huge moat. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they classified that as a monopoly. It's essentially you're controlling the roads, aren't you, really? But there may be ways around that. This is Elon Musk's favourite podcast. Absolutely, Oliver. I hope so. Hopefully he watches it, and then he might invite me to come and have a look at this tunnel in Las Vegas, maybe before CES later next year. Yes. 8 a.m. is it, Johnny? 8 a.m. based in the USA? I've never asked. So it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon here in the UK. Okay, excellent, guys. So yeah, I think we've gone through all the questions there. But yeah, this episode came about via this question from Warren, which I thought was excellent. Excellent question. I think there's some really excellent things that are going to occur at the Boeing Company over the next 1 to 2 to 3 years. I think that the machines are going to improve rapidly, and we're going to see the rate of improvement increase. It's going to be like hockey stick curve rather than just a flat line. I think that certainly in better soil conditions, they could achieve 150, maybe even more than that per day. The soil conditions obviously play a very critical part in terms of what you can and can't do, but where we have a machine that is fully automated, there's no reason why you couldn't daisy chain machines. So you could have a launch pit every 4 miles, and then you could have maybe 5 TBMs, and then you could just launch them all in the same week, and before you know it, you've created a really long tunnel in under a year. Because if you can sort of start building these tunnels, big long tunnels, in under a year, imagine how quickly you could build out a network of hundreds and hundreds of miles. All you need is a large number of TBMs and really kind of effective technology for those TBMs, you could have a system that is bigger than the New York Underground in less than a decade, very easily. Right. And on that bombshell, I'm going to finish. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Really do appreciate that. And as always, please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm so close to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. I only need, I think, 15 more people to subscribe, and then I'm on 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to the Instagram. And if you've not done so, definitely join our Discord channel, where you can discuss about the TBM technology, you can discuss about Elon Musk, you can even have a quick chat about Tesla and SpaceX as well. So whatever you're interested in, please come and join us on the Discord. You know what, Watermelon? I would love to go to a Tesla event. It's just getting over to the USA and finding the time to book some time off work. Yeah. I've heard a theory that the Boeing Company technology will be used for Mars, since they need to build underground to avoid radiation. Yes. Add to that, Teslas can work on Mars where gas cars would not. Yeah, so there is potentially an option for building underground cities using TBMs. So essentially you'd have a TBM that digs one way, and then you'd have to find a way to turn it around, and then you dig another parallel line, maybe I don't know, like 300 foot apart from the previous tunnel, and then you could link them up in kind of a grid pattern. But yeah, thanks guys. Yeah, I hope so. 2K soon. Okay guys, I'm going to shoot off, keep this nice and short. Thank you for joining me. As always, really appreciate the comments. Excellent questions, as always. Keep it coming. Anything you want to ask me, put it in the comments below, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. Your questions help me and help me understand this, because if it's posing a problem for me to understand, then obviously I need to do more research. But in terms of what you're asking, great questions, and it helps me progress my knowledge of the Boeing Company, TBMs, mass transit, etc. Thank you for joining me, and remember guys, don't be boring, and we'll see you soon. See you later. Goodbye.